Yo, what's going on, yo? I'm JB Hoops, and today I will be handing out grades for each team in the 2023 NBA Draft. A total of 28 teams made selections, and both the Sixers and Knicks were busy picking up guys in undrafted free agency, so every single team was active during the draft. There were quite a few surprises and guys that went a lot higher or lower than expected, so I'm just going to be grading each team's draft based on the value, fit, and guys they left on the board. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I'll have more post-draft content coming soon, and let's just get right into it. I'll just do the order based on each team's first pick. So starting off with the Spurs, at 1 they took Victor Wembanyama, and then at 44 they took Sidy Cissoko, and I'm obviously giving them an A+. Not much needs to be said here. The Spurs did what needed to be done, got a generational talent and scooped up Sidy Cissoko, another Frenchman to pair with Wemby at 44, which was a steal, so I'm giving the Spurs an A+ for sure. Next up are the Charlotte Hornets, who took Brandon Miller at 2, Nick Smith Jr. at 27, James Nagy at 31, and then Amari Bailey at 41. I'm going to give the Hornets a C-. If you've watched any of my mocks or boards this cycle, you'll know I'm not super high on Brandon Miller, especially over Scoot Henderson. I do think he'll be a very good player for Charlotte and possibly make a few All-Star games, but you just cannot pass up on a talent like Scoot. Nick Smith Jr. at 27, Nagy at 31, and Amari Bailey at 41 were all great picks. Their defense will probably be pretty rough, but if Nick can be a plus on that end, he could become a long-term starter. But overall, just for passing on Scoot, I think the highest grade I can give them is a C-. The Blazers took Scoot Henderson at 3, Chris Murray at 23, and then Rayon Rupert at 43, and I'm giving them an A+. Scoot simply fell into the Blazers' lap. Now I'm just praying they don't do something stupid and trade him away to try and build around Dame. Scoot Henderson should definitely be their franchise guy. I think they should go get a huge package for Dame, probably move Simons as well and just build around Scoot. And maybe Sharp can be that second or third guy. Chris Murray at 23 and then Rayon Rupert at 43 are both solid pickups. I'm not particularly high on either of them, and I probably would have went with GG or Leonard Miller over Chris, but Rupert is definitely good value that late, and they're both very good fits if the Blazers are going to keep Dame, so I have to give the Blazers an A+ for their draft. Next up are the Rockets, who had picks 4 and 20, and with them they took Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore, and I'm giving them an A+++. Again, not a lot needs to be said, the Rockets flat out won the draft. Amen was my third guy all cycle, and Cam was my fourth, and somehow instead of picking between them at 4, the Rockets managed to get both of them. I'm not completely aware of what caused Cam to fall, but regardless, he is way too talented to justify him falling out of the top 10, let alone all the way to 20. Amen Thompson is one of my favourite prospects ever, and I believe both of them could become great for the Rockets. I'll probably make an entire video dedicated to the Rockets draft, and breaking down how it all could work, but in this one I'm giving them an A+++. The Pistons had picks 5 and 25, taking Ausar Thompson and Marcus Sasser, and for their draft, I'm giving them an A. I love this draft for the Pistons. Ausar is amazing, and Sasser is a great backup combo guard and a proven leader who will be able to contribute right away. Ausar brings that defense and tertiary creation next to Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, and I really think if healthy, the Pistons could be looking at a play-in berth next season. Next up are the Magic, who took Anthony Black at 6 and then Jet Howard at 11, and I'm giving them a C. I think Black was a bit of a reach at 6 and I'm not a fan of the fit, especially with a pretty poor shooting frontcourt already, but his connective passing and defense will be great, and Jet is a really cool shooting prospect with some self-creation upside, and he'll get a lot of threes up for the Magic, but I do think there were probably better prospects available at both 6 and 11, so I'm gonna have to give them a C. I'm also going to give Washington a C. The Wizards went with 2 international guys in Bilal Coulibaly at 7 and Tristan Vukcevic at 42. And whilst I think Bilal was quite a reach, I'm just happy they took a swing on a high upside guy. Vukcevic is also a solid pickup as a stretch big with a nice offensive game, and he's good value at 42. Jordan Poole will probably average almost 30 next season, so the Wizards won't be very good, but they'll at least be a fun team and their young guys should get a lot of reps, but I am still giving their draft a C. Next up are the Pacers, who had 4 picks in the draft, and I'm giving them a B+. I think the Pacers had a pretty solid draft. Jarrett Sadate is perfect and he'll be great for them. And Ben Shepherd at 26, Mojave King at 47, and then Isaiah Wong at 55 are fine. But I personally would have liked them to go for a higher upside guy at 26 or a Colby Jones. But overall, it was a very solid draft, so I'm giving the Pacers a B+. The Utah Jazz got a crazy haul with their 3 first-round picks, taking Taylor Hendricks at 9, Keontae George at 16, and scooping up Bryce Sensabaugh, who in my opinion is a top 10 talent in the class, at 28. I'm not super high on Taylor Hendricks, but the defensive versatility alongside Laurie and Kessler is interesting, and Keontae and Bryce are super high upside shooter and scorer bets outside of the lottery. I had all 3 of these guys in my top 12, and I really think the Jazz could be back competing in the playoffs very soon, so I'm obviously giving the Jazz an A+. Next up are the Thunder, who took Cason Wallace at 10 and then Keontae Johnson at 50, and I'm giving them an A-. The Thunder are an interesting one to grade as they probably didn't need another guard, and I definitely would have taken Cam Whitmore at 10, but Cason is just so damn good that I don't think it really matters. They'll need SGA, J-Dub and Giddey to completely buy in defensively and guard bigger dudes, but Cason Wallace could replace Dort pretty quickly and form a really deadly young core in OKC. Johnson probably won't play much, but it's a fine pick at 50. But just because I love Cam Whitmore's game and they passed on him, I'm going to have to give the Thunder an A-. The Mavericks took Derek Lively II at 12 and then Olivier Maxence Prosper at 24, and I'm also giving them an A-. Both these guys are great fits, and Lively brings something the Mavs have desperately needed for years, that obviously being an elite defensive anchor. I think Lively should start straight away, he's got some untapped upside, can really pass, and should feast on easy buckets playing alongside Luka and Kyrie if he's back. Omax Prosper is another guy who fits in nicely as a defensive wing, and they also ended up with Rashawn Holmes, who's a good backup center, so I am giving the Mavs an A-. The Raptors took Grady Dick at 13 and I'm giving them a B+. He's a very good pickup for them and fills a need for shooting on the wing. I would have preferred Cam or Bryce or a lead guard like Keontae, but overall Dick is a very good pick at 13, so I'm giving them a B+. The Pelicans took UConn national champion Jordan Hawkins at 14, and I'm going to have to give them a C-. Hawkins is a solid pick and will give the Pels a different dynamic with his movement shooting, but the ancillary skills just aren't there to be much more than a specialist. So in my opinion, he was a bit of a reach in the lotto. Now onto the Hawks, who took Kobe Bufkin at 15, Muhammad Gay at 39, and then Seth Lundy at 46, and I'm giving their draft a B. Cam was still available at 15, but Kobe Bufkin is solid and fits really well, and I think he'll be great alongside Trey. Gay is a solid big man bet in the second, and Lundy is a fine pick in the 40s, although I think I would have taken a defensive forward. But overall, it was a very solid draft, so I'm giving them a B. Now moving on to the Lakers, who took Jalen Hood-Schifino at 17 and then Maxwell Lewis at 40, and I'm giving them a B+. I'm not confident in either player contributing straight away, and I honestly would have preferred if the picks were flipped. I think JHS was a bit of a reach at 17 and Lewis was a steal at 40, and I'm also not sure the current Lakers will be a great environment for either of them, but overall it's a very good draft for them, and Maxwell Lewis at 40 is insane value. The Heat took Jaime Jaquez Jr. at 18, which in my opinion was a huge reach, and I'm going to have to give them a D. But in saying that, Jaquez fits in the Heat playstyle and culture perfectly. He's a good team defender, experienced and a gritty player. I think the athleticism and on-ball defense will restrict what he can do, and I definitely would have taken other guys at 18. But the Miami Heat can make it work with anyone, so I'm not really going to doubt him, but I am still going to give them a D. The Warriors took Brandon Podziemski at 19 and then Trace Jackson Davis at 59. Pods is nice. The Warriors probably aren't a great fit for him, but he's a hooper and should be able to contribute straight away with his phenomenal shooting, feel and intensity. And I'm a huge fan of the Trace Jackson Davis pickup at 59. I think that's a steal. So once again, I think the Warriors had a great draft and I'm going to have to give them an A. The Nets had a great draft, taking Noah Clowney at 21, Dariq Whitehead at 22, and then Jalen Wilson at 51, and I'm going to have to give them an A. Clowney and Dariq are both super young with a ton of upside. If Dariq regains his burst, he'll be a steal, and I think Clowney can be a key piece in their future as well. I'm not a huge Jalen Wilson guy, but at 51 I can't really complain, so I'm going to give the Nets draft an A. Then we have the Nuggets, who took Julian Strawther at 29, Jalen Pickett at 32, and then Hunter Tyson out of Clemson at 37, and I'm giving Denver's draft a C-. Strawther is a solid get at 29, I think he'll be awesome curling, relocating and playing off of Jokic and Murray, but I'm just not a fan of their other selections. Pickett is a weird archetype and I'm not sure how his game translates, and I don't see Tyson being more than a shooting specialist with size, and I just think there were better prospects available at all three of their picks. Now onto the Clippers, who took Kobe Brown at 30 and then Jordan Miller at 48, and I'm giving their draft a C. Kobe Brown is a solid pickup at 30, maybe a bit of a reach, and I'm really not sure about the Jordan Miller pick, so I probably would have taken Trace Jackson Davis or Taquavion Smith, so their draft was fine, nothing special, and I'm going to give them a C. Now onto the Wolves, who had one of my favourite drafts, taking Leonard Miller at 33 and then Jalen Clark at 53, so I'm obviously giving them an A+. Miller is a bit of a tweener, big play finishing wing with a lot to clean up, but he's a lotto level talent, so getting him in the second round is incredible, and Jalen Clark is a solid defensive wing to get in the 50s, so I'm giving the Wolves an A+. The Kings had some great value picks with Colby Jones at 34 and then Jalen Slawson at 54, and again I'm going to give them an A. Jones fits in their offense nicely and should more than hold his own defensively from the jump, and Jalen Slawson is a playmaker on both ends that gives them some much needed defensive versatility, so I'm giving the Kings draft an A. Now we've got the Bulls, who at 35 took Julian Phillips, and I'm giving them a C+. I'm a big fan of Julian Phillips and think he could be a great defender in the future, but there were probably a few guys I would have taken over him at 35, and I'm just really not confident in the Bulls' ability to develop players, and Phillips will need a ton of investment, but overall it's a solid pick and a C+. Now finally we have the Bucks, who took Andre Jackson Jr. at 36 and then Chris Livingston at 60, and I'm giving them a B-. Ajax is a fun pickup and gives the Bucks some much needed athleticism on the wings. I'm not confident in his offense at all, but as an energy guy who plays D, he's a very good pick, and the Chris Livingston pick at 60 is solid, so I'm giving them a B-. Now onto the Celtics, who took Jordan Walsh at 38, and I'm giving them an A. The Celtics made like 3 different draft night trades and kept moving back, but Jordan Walsh is a great selection at 38 with his instant defensive impact and offensive upside. He's probably not going to be a big factor this year, but Walsh is a really fun prospect, so I'm giving the Celtics an A. The Grizzlies ended up with picks 45 and 56, and with those they took Gigi Jackson and Tariq Biberovic. I'm not going to lie, the Tariq pick caught me off guard, but the Grizz can afford to swing on a draft and stash guy. Gigi Jackson at 45 is ridiculous value. I had him as my 11th ranked guy, and although the Grizzlies might not be an ideal landing spot for him, he can grow in the G League and potentially be a huge contributor down the line, so I'm giving the Grizzlies draft an A+. The Cavs took Amoni Bates at 49 and I'm giving them an A-. Realistically, in this range, the Cavs weren't going to land a guy who will start or probably even be in the rotation. So swinging on a high upside, uber talented scoring wing like Amoni is a great move. And the Cavs could be a perfect fit for him to thrive alongside great defenders. So I'm giving this pick an A-. Next, we have the Suns, who took Tamani Kamara at 52, and I'm giving them an A. Kamara is another guy I think can make an impact straight away, especially for a Suns team with extremely poor depth and young talent. Tamani is an awesome defender with a ton of versatility and can do a bit of everything offensively, so I'm giving the Suns an A. So overall, the draft was very interesting with some surprise jumps and slides. I ended up handing out 15 grades in the A's, 5 B's, 7 C's and 1 D. But in a very talented class, I think a lot of teams ended up with great hauls and picks. And whilst there were a few who I'm not a huge fan of, I can understand the reasoning and fit for almost every pick. Alright, so that is all I got for this one. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I appreciate all the support on the channel. I'm still going to have more content through the off season, so stay tuned. And anyway, that's all I got. JB Hoops, out.